Welcome back, listeners, to another episode of Epical Growth. I'm your host, Sarah Caminiti, and I am so happy that you're here. Today, I am thrilled to bring you a conversation with someone who is truly shaping the future of work. Luke Jamieson is a global expert in customer and employee experience. He's known for his creative approach to leadership and his insights on how AI is transforming our roles, not replacing them. We're deep diving into the importance of creating space for purpose-driven work, and how AI is revolutionizing leadership, and why leaders need to focus on appreciation and belonging over recognition and rewards. This episode is packed with so many valuable insights you won't want to miss. Many of you will recognize Luke from the fantastic series with Michael Madison 2020-ish that was on LinkedIn celebrating leaders within the CX space, and I am so happy that he is now a part of the Epical Growth family. All right, listeners, let's get into it.
Well, g'day everyone. My name is Luke Jamieson, and I am so stoked to finally get to face-to-face meet Sarah Caminiti. What do you want to know about me? I'm just passionate about CX and employee experience and the future of work and all the things that come with that. And I like producing content that I hope people like, because it's, I think there's so much drab stuff out here. So it was awesome to actually get an invite to be on this one, because I think this is a cracking podcast.
Oh, man. Thank you. Thank you. Well, I think that you do produce content that people like, because that's how I was introduced to you and what you're doing. And I think the first thing that I do really want to know, Luke, is what happened? What was your moment where you realized you needed to talk about everything that you're so passionate about talking about the employee experience, about the power of making people feel like they belong in their workplace? Like, what was it inside of you that was like, I got to talk about this?
Yeah, look, I'll tell you what, it's been an evolution to get to that, right? Because many people might know that I was a baker and pastry chef when I left school, and that was a blast. I'm a creative person, and there's heaps of creativity to be done in that. But I'll tell you what, when you're working nights, it's your mates become scarce, and girlfriends even more so. So after I finished my apprenticeship, and had my bakery and all that sort of jazz, I needed to do something different. And really quick segue, like I did some graphic design and editing and ad space work, and that had me traveling up and down the east coast of Australia. If you haven't figured out by the accent, if you haven't heard me on a podcast before, I am in Melbourne, Australia. And anyway, I moved to Melbourne, and it was funny enough, when you don't have a qualification in graphic design, it's not as easy as you think to get another job in it, despite how good you are at it, right? So I took a stepping stone job into a contact center. I was like, I'll just do this for a little bit until I can find a creative role. And I was like, this world is insane. This world is bizarre. You're asking humans to try to be as human and empathetic as possible, and then treating everyone like a robot. And I don't know. It was one of those moments so I've got a pretty, I've always had kind of this natural, I gravitate to leadership, right? And I, ran youth groups growing up, and created youth groups and ran those and all that sort of stuff. And then so I saw this opportunity to lead in contact centers, and I don't know, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the opportunity to change and to revolutionize how we do stuff in that space, and particularly from a contact center and employee engagement perspective. And so to answer your question, finally, it's been an evolution over the last 20 years, right? Of what is it that drives us to be motivated and give us a sense of belonging. And it's made up of so many things. Like this idea of a sense of belonging is so complex, and there's all these different senses that we have to have in order to feel that sense of belonging. And that involves things like not just like the obvious ones, like a sense of purpose and a sense of meaning, but a sense of self, a sense of community, a sense of joy, a sense of achievement, a sense of growth, and all of these things have to align for us to get to a point of a sense of belonging. And so many organizations don't know how to do that, and they simply throw a pizza party and expect people to be motivated. And just the way we create KPIs and everything for people is just so broken, and we need to shift how we do that. And I think one of the reasons I love AI so much is because it's freaking everyone out, right? It's freaking everyone out that's going to take our jobs. And that's because we've created all these jobs that are made up of tasks that that a machine can do. And I think people are starting to realize that we need to create jobs that are not based on tasks, but based upon humans and what our broad mission and purpose is for an organization, and how do we achieve that. And what is the output versus the input that us as humans can bring to a workplace. So, wow, that was a long response to your question. I'm sorry, Sarah.
So good. Oh, that was so good. Man, we are kindred spirits on so many levels. And I think that I agree with every single thing that you said. And the thing that stood out, though, was the AI bit. That's really different than what I've heard and what I've talked with others about for that correlation between AI and CX. I've been excited about AI because it's finally giving us a chance to talk about all of these things that we've been doing for a really long time quietly and, without any sort of appreciation, with data analytics and really drilling into the trend analysis and doing all these manual things because we don't have the support or the budget to use the tools that actually make us effective. And AI is like coming through and it's like, oh my God, this thing is amazing. Look at all these things that they do. And it's like, guys, like we've been doing this for years. You just never were paying attention. But what you're saying about AI being a task, it takes over those tasks because so much of what we do is a task. That is a huge chunk of what the purpose is of this job. That is such a solid point. And I like that angle. I think that that's an angle that can really connect with people outside of our space that comes with the same result of now we would be able to do more. We would be able to actually do the stuff that we have been doing, but use it in a more purposeful way. But saying that it is taking over those tasks, I think that is a really well thought out way of expressing the realities of AI in the CX space.
I think it poses some really interesting future of work thoughts as well around how do we structure our days and all that sort of stuff. And I think, in Australia, there's this, the unions, I think did a really positive thing way back when and created the 8-hour day, the 8-hour work day. And so there's 8 hours of play, 8 hours of sleep, and 8 hours of work. And I think that changes, though. I think AI has and that's been, decades and decades of that, right? I think AI has the opportunity to change that because, as organizations start to think about, what we're here for and what is the big, hairy, audacious goal as an organization that we want to get, what is the purpose and meaning of our organization? All of a sudden we can start focusing our people on achieving that instead of doing the tasks. And I think that then creates these jobs of meaning and stuff. And that might actually mean that we don't need to work 8 hours a day. We might only have to work 4 hours a day to do that, but it's purposeful, driven, aligned work. And that's going to be way more valuable than these tasks. Anyway, we're probably getting way off topic, but that's kind of where my head's at with the future of work, right? And what this has potential to do.
No, I think that that's totally on topic. I'm so happy that you were saying that. And I think that this idea that we would be able to do more purpose-driven work within an organization makes me think a lot about core values, because if your core values as a company are clearly defined and you have a purpose and you actually live by that and your actions speak to these core values and your employees feel those core values, it allows them the space to lean into their personal core values and see how they can make the company stronger because of it. And if you're opening up the door to conversations of, wow, we now are able to utilize these folks that we invited into our space, into our company to be employees and to help make this place better. Now we have this opportunity to like see what can happen. Let's see what happens if we give them the tools that they need to be successful and do the work that they want to do, but the task stuff is taking up all of their time, and celebrate who they are and what they bring to the table and use that as it's kind of your differentiator as a company of this is what we believe in and this is why, and that's it.
And I think one of the challenges I think we've seen in many industries is good intention and poor execution. And so, and let me give you an example, like environmental social governance, right? ESG. These companies are like, yeah, we want to be environmentally conscious, and so therefore let's bring in some people who are really focused on that and really passionate about that, and they bring them into the organization so that they can say that they're taking action and they're being, socially responsible. And then these people who are passionate about that get into these corporate organizations and just get like destroyed by the red tape and the mundane and the tasks and all the things that suck the soul out of you in a corporate environment. And then all of a sudden it just becomes a tick box exercise. Whereas if we were able to remove some of those barriers and remove some of that those things that got in the way that did suck your soul out, because AI can take some of these tasks and you can just focus your passion and your creativity and your joy and all the things that get you excited about that. How much better could that role be, and how much better is that for the organization, and how much better is that for our society? And I just think, man, there's some seriously cool opportunity here for that. So,
yeah, no, there are. It'll be really interesting, where I think we're hitting into like the next 2 to 3 years of a reality check, where the shiny toy mentality of AI is starting to leave a little bit. The folks that decided to just do it in a way that was ineffective or thoughtless, I guess, for lack of a better term, for when they're implementing these sorts of things, are regretting it. And their customers have voiced their opinions about why they need to be regretting these choices. And now we're shifting into, okay, well, this doesn't work. We can't just replace an entire department with a bot that has never been trained and doesn't have anything set up for QA. So now what do we do? And now we're starting to see so much more conversation into, well, it's an enhancement tool. It's a co-pilot. It's a reminder of all of these other things that we want them to remember, but the brain cannot hold all of that information. It's the 360 view of the actual customer journey, and it's allowing teams to not be siloed anymore. Like think about the opportunities that exist now to not have everybody pit against each other, because no one really could ever see into the customer experience that existed for that one specific department. And so then you just are constantly butting heads. No one's talking the same language. And now we can.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, like the thought of that. I've been wrestling with a similar topic around like reward and recognition. Not wrestling with, no, I've got my views on this, but this idea of reward and recognition within organizations, and how it literally pits people up against each other. and that we need to think of different ways to do that, around appreciation and gratitude versus reward and recognition, and what does that mean for us from an intrinsic value perspective in our work lives. So yeah, interesting. I think there's some synergy there between those two topics.
For sure. What do you think companies should do?
Look, I think what the problem with the reward and recognition programs inherently is that they more often than not go to the extrinsic thing. There's a reward. It's reward based. You're working towards getting this reward, and there's this celebrity culture that comes with that, right? So all of a sudden, I feel like the world is all about 15 minutes of fame, and that's no different in the office. People are looking for that 15 minutes of fame in the office, and they do that through these reward and recognition programs. And it's like, how do I get my name up in lights? I tick all of these boxes. I take all the widgets you've thrown at me and I achieve them in this order in order to get that recognition. And then what that does is it puts people up against each other within an organization. And those people who are doing the work because it's meaningful to them and they want to do that work because just doing a good job is what satisfies them and gives them that intrinsic reward, and they do that because it's the right thing to do, get overlooked. And then they then get demotivated because of these reward and recognition programs. And it's a form of gamification, right? It's the gold star on the checkbox because, you did your homework today. And it's just a different form of that. And I think we forget that, like, you can have adverse effects. It is, for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction, and I'll give you an example of that. Like, each is, we're diving into gamification a bit here, but LinkedIn has recently put games on there. So I don't know if you've noticed this, there's 3 games you can play on a daily basis. And I was actually really enjoying those. But then they brought in this thing of streaks. So then how many days in a row you would have to actually, how many days in a row you'd completed it. And the minute I lost my streak, because, just life, I no longer wanted to do it anymore. And so it has the complete opposite reaction to that, right? And so going back to employee engagement, if the work itself is meaningful and the work itself is the thing that gives the satisfaction to the employee because it's aligned, it's purposeful, it's meaningful, and they, how do we recognize that? Well, I think it comes from a culture of appreciation. And culture is just a set of behaviors repeated. So it's those moments of appreciation on a regular basis, which then drives gratitude. Appreciation is outside to in, gratitude is inside to out, and it creates this nice flow. And I think we need to move back to this culture of appreciation and gratitude in order and aligning meaningful work and the achievement of that meaningful work. So collaboratively as a group and as a team, we're all working towards the same thing versus trying to get this celebrity status within an organization.
Hey listeners, are you looking for fresh insights on the latest in tech and customer experience? Then I have the best podcast for you. Tune in to Support Human, the podcast hosted by Steph Lundberg. Yes, the art of being dead inside, Steph Lundberg, a seasoned support leader, a writer, and a very, very dear friend. Each episode dives into tech accountability, CX trends, and even features Bad Job Bingo, the only game where companies hope to lose. Whether you're a tech enthusiast or just curious, Support Human keeps you informed with wit and wisdom. Check it out at supporthuman.cx and stay ahead of the curve. No, that's powerful stuff though, Lou. What have you found when you talk about this stuff? What has the response been?
I think the challenge of this is sometimes it feels a little intangible. So it's so easy to see a reward and recognition program and see that tangible outcome. And it's easy to put widgets in place and it's easy to put metrics and goals and all this sort of things in place. I'm not saying we shouldn't have goals. I'm not, goals are a great way to celebrate achievement and progress. So great. But we've got to think about how do we think about those from an intrinsic value versus the extrinsic value? And the simple answer is it's a cultural change. But that is equally as hard to actually achieve, right? And it takes some guts to stand up and say we're actually going to go down this path, and we're not going to have a reward and recognition program. We're actually doing away with it, and where you've got organizations left, right, and center saying we're just introducing this new reward and recognition program. No, we're not about that, because culturally we're about appreciation, and this is where leaders have an opportunity to. This is where leaders need to lead. This is where leaders need to. And again, this is where AI helps, right? Leaders forever taking the monkey on their back. It's like, how many times I think back to my career when I'm leading people and running contact centers, and a contact center agent comes up to you and says, "Hey, I've got this really big problem," or "I've got this." I'll be like, "Oh, all right, I've already got 50 things on my plate," but I'm like, what do I say? Leave it with me. Leave it with me. All of a sudden, you've got 100 things on your plate, and you're doing all of these tasks, taking you away from the thing that actually is going to provide the most value, which is coaching, training, taking time to appreciate, taking time to acknowledge someone's effort, celebrating someone's growth. I think that's a huge part. Like, that's a huge part of that. When we talk about progress and recognition and appreciation, is acknowledging someone's growth in something. They've got better at something, because that is an intrinsic reward for someone themselves. And just to acknowledge that is so huge. And so AI is going to help, I think. That's what I hope. My hope for it is that it helps leaders get back to doing the things that are going to make the biggest difference, which is lead people and appreciate people and give them the time and let them be seen. No, I'm not talking about celebrity status scene. I'm not talking about putting them up in lights, employee of the month BS. I'm talking about they're just being seen and appreciated and heard, and know that they're contributing to something bigger than themselves, which then starts to drive that sense of belonging. Yeah.
Yep, it definitely does. And it's one of those things where, with the reward and the recognition programs, those are usually the same companies that have the most expensive help desk thing that actually only does one tiny, tiny little nugget of what actually needs to be done. And they get a pizza party twice a year. And it's such a removal, because they're not able to give themselves the opportunity to really think about what it is that these choices they're making are telling the people that they're working with. And it goes over and over again to, I don't value you enough. I don't value your success enough to actually look at you as a person instead of a metric. And then it does skew when you want to do this well and when you want to embrace it. It boils down to data, because you can't coach, you can't see, you can't be present if you don't know the reality of what's going on. And if you are a leader who wants to actually be in it with your team, you need to see, oh, yesterday I noticed this person had a huge dip in their numbers. I'm not going to go to a negative assumption and say they weren't doing a good job that day. I'm going to go up to them and I'm going to say, did you have some really complex problems yesterday? Like, I noticed that you were taking a much longer time than usual, but you didn't come and ask for help. So I just kind of want to check in and let them know.
Yeah, it could be one step further, where they're actually getting insight into what it was before they actually even have to ask that question.
Yes.
And it could be, hey, wow, I saw how that affected this. How I want to be able to support you by doing X, Y, Z, or let's buddy you up with this person, or hey, well done on handling something that in any other day we would say you didn't do a good job, but the insight's actually shown me that you actually took the time to care and show value to that customer and add loyalty and all the things that we wanted. So we really appreciate that you've done that. And this then comes back to the output that someone does and not the input, right? And yeah, wow. Yeah, I just think there's so much opportunity. Yeah. Yeah.
No, there is. There's definitely so much opportunity. And the fact that there's conversations being had outside of the CX space, because I feel like we're a special bunch that have known that this is what makes a difference for a long time, because we're dealing with human emotions every day. Like that is the name of the game when you're working with customers, and we're able to play and see what happens when we approach a problem in this way. We see what happens when we ask a question in this way, and oh, this didn't convey what I wanted to convey in this way. And so when I go and talk to my boss about something, I know I should probably, try these words, because these seem to work really well with the customer, and the message will get across much better with somebody else. But the QA piece of being a leader is something that AI, I think, has really shown a really positive light on, of the excuse of, I don't have time, or I only need to look at 2 or 3 tickets a month, and that's my QA, is that excuse isn't valid anymore, because it's taken that out if you actually invest in a program that does it for you.
Yeah, yeah. I always struggled with that anyway. Leading with people, the whole idea of that one call can ruin your whole month or whatever. As an agent, when that's why I created a whole new quality framework when I was at an organization, which was more focused on like just breaking down the individual components of a call, and rating that as a holistic view of performance versus this one call was a 0, despite the fact that there was 99 good things, but you failed to do a security check on. So it's a 0, I think we need to take a more holistic approach to quality, even if you don't have AI, right? But I think you're right. AI is definitely revolutionized that space. Thank God.
What did you see as a change when you started implementing that holistic approach to QA? And how did that conversation go when you were talking about it with senior leadership, that you were changing the way that you were doing QA?
Well, the biggest thing is it impacts the employee, right? So like let's say it is 3 calls or 4 calls a month and whatever, and you fail one and your pass mark's 80%. You can't pass if you fail one call. And so you're written off for that. And if that happens a couple of times in a year, you've written off your whole year. And then once you no longer realize you can achieve the goal, well, what's the point in even trying for the rest of the year? And it just leads down this horrible path of disinterest and disengagement and apathy and all these things that we don't want, and destroys resilience. And yeah, it's a horrible process. So the biggest impact is actually on the employee, because it's like, okay, I know I can make a mistake and yet still be acknowledged for all the good things I did. And that doesn't take away from the mistake, right? We report the mistake up the line. We acknowledge it. We address it. We create a closed loop circuit that allows us to then go and address that with a customer and with regulators or whoever it is that we need to do to do the right thing to rectify the situation. But what it doesn't do is destroy all the good things that somebody does and degrade someone down to a binary moment. It's a way more holistic approach, and I think that's a way better employee experience. It makes no difference to the customer in that moment, right? If the mistake's done, the mistake's done. It's what we do afterwards that changes that for the customer. But in that moment for the employee, how we treat that makes a huge difference to them. Yeah.
Yep. Yep. No, it definitely does. There's something I realized when I started building the teams in my previous jobs and stuff. It's when you're And it took them a while to get used to this too, because it was a different approach to these sort of conversations. But difficult conversations aren't supposed to be like anxiety inducing, like feel like you're going to throw up conversations. A leader needs to take responsibility for the fact that that employee did not have the support that they need to do the job that they needed to do well, because we have to remember everybody's trying to do their best. And so if you start approaching those conversations of, hey, we know that this wasn't an intentional thing, but why did you do it this way? Walk me through it so that I can figure out where in this process things didn't go according to plan, so that we can then put something in place to support you and help you, and then share this with everybody else. Because if you're feeling this, you're not alone. Everyone is probably feeling this in some capacity, and now we can have a conversation.
Yeah, exactly. It's removing that binary approach to these things where it's good or bad, and you know, again, I'm gonna go back to a gamification example, and why I think that there's a place for it in the workforce when done properly. I don't know if you play games or not, but
sometimes.
All right. So
sometimes, yeah.
In most games, you get to like that boss challenge, right? That boss fight where you have to that you know, the final challenge to overcome a level or whatever it is. Even if it's in, I don't know, Candy Crush, there's always going to be that big one that's going to get you to the next level. We don't approach that. When you approach a game at that level, you don't go in there going, this is a pass-fail moment for me. This is one of those moments that if I screw this up, my career's over. Like I'm never playing this game again, right? You don't approach it like that. You approach it as a learning opportunity, right? You have a go at it. Oh, it didn't work. I'm going to give it another go. Okay, I got slightly better. Yeah, I overcome it. Great. We move on to our next level, threshold of challenge. If we approached those difficult conversations in the same way that this is just a boss fight. We're gonna have a go at it. we might die on this one. Okay, let's go again though. Okay, let's just have another crack at it. And have a different mentality going into that this isn't binary. This is just an opportunity for learning and growth and moving forward. We have a much better feeling towards that. All of a sudden, we don't have the anxiety, right? And of that. I think, I even think about my oldest daughter is doing her final year of school at the moment, and she's going into exams in the next couple of weeks. And I just worry for her because like exams suck for that exact reason.
Yeah.
It's all that hard work that you've put in for years and years come down to this binary moment of, can I perform in this next 2 hours to be able to show that I know this, or that and there's so many factors that play into that. It can be time, it can be anxiety, it can be all these things. And yet we approach this in such a binary way that creates all this stress and anxiety, which it doesn't need to be. And there's so many other ways we could test learning and check that someone has competency and desire and passion and thinking, like just
like the comprehension,
problem solving, comprehensive, all those sort of things. I can't listen, can't even talk all of a sudden. But it's we approach these. It's this way of that we've done these things in our society. That things are just good and bad, and I just don't think there is good and bad. I think it's so much more complex than that, and we shouldn't simplify anything down to that. Yeah.
No, I agree. I definitely agree. And I'm hopeful that your daughter gets out of this. Luckily, she has a support system in you being able to have those conversations of taking some of that pressure off of her, because it really does take away some of that love of learning that could still exist and you want to have carry on with you for the rest of your kids' lives.
Exactly.
When there's just that like doomsday of, I could just have a bad day or I'm not good at taking tests. I mean, from a personal thing, like I was terrible at taking tests. I would just panic and I would just feel like I was never going to be able to remember everything. My mind would go blank. And then who knows? Who knows what was going to happen? Like,
exactly. Just like I did then. Right?
And hey,
oh my God, I'm going to have a bad podcast.
6 words with that sentence. Yes. No, it's true though. And that shouldn't define a person. And that's like, I've been thinking a lot about resumes too. And the pressure that goes into creating the right resume and saying the right thing and being able to articulate it the right way. And it boils down to some just crappy power dynamics with all of these different things of good and bad. There's no gray. It is someone has decided that this is good, this is bad, and you can't defend it. We're not going to have a conversation about it. You either are or you are not. And that's that. And
it's there's no feedback loop.
No,
there's no feedback.
There's no feedback.
You don't go into it going, do I sell myself here? Or do I go in with, humility and undersell myself? Do I go in there as like, what's my approach to this? And you don't always know. Like, it's hard to tell from a job description and a company profile as to what they're looking for. And then, you get like a one-liner rejection email and no feedback as to all the feedback you get. There was a lot of great candidates. Awesome. So I'm not one of them. What did I do wrong?
Thank you. That helped.
Yeah, exactly. Like, if we talk about that from a customer experience perspective, if we were to just put that out there and get no feedback, and that's it. That's we'd be up in arms about it, right? So yeah, that's a broken industry, broken process.
It is.
And this is coming from people who are people. This is coming from your HR areas, right? Who are there for are meant to be your people champions. And then this is how they treat external people. Like, oh God, don't start me.
I mean, we could have another 2 hours probably talking about this. I think that the biggest thing is someone asking for your expectations for salary on a job description and like setting it up so that from day one, you don't have any negotiating power. Like, you threw it out the window. Like, now they hold this secret number and they are going to judge you based on how you are defining your worth. And you can't go too high, because if you go too high, then you're going to get automatically rejected because you're outside of the budget. If you go too low, then you're going to get the low end, regardless of whether your qualifications like say that that's what it's going to be. No one tells you what the band is. So you have no clue what your place is in all of it. And then you have to go into a job interview and figure out how you're going to navigate it when you still don't even know if they like the number that you put into the job application in the first place.
Yeah. Broken.
There's my soapbox for 10:30 at night.
Love it.
But it's there's a lot to be learned from customer experience. There's a lot to be learned if different departments, if different companies, if different C-suite folks thought of every person in their company as a customer. I think that people would approach a lot of things very differently.
I agree. It makes me actually think about the application process, that this idea of a CV is actually a completely wrong approach, right? It almost does need to be that questionnaire of answer these questions and you'll get a score and then come back and then we can give you a feedback loop. Because look, I get it. Like if you've got to reply to 100, 200, 1,000 people with, feedback on their application, that's a lot. It's a big drain, right? But hey, you know what? We could use AI for that.
Whoa. Whoa. No. Well, why not though? When I do job applications, like when I'm hiring, I don't look at the resume really. I don't look at the cover letter really. I ask a series of questions and I want to understand how they think about a problem or how they start a paragraph when they're trying to talk to a fake angry customer. I want to see what your reality is in this job, not, some stuff that you Googled you're supposed to put down on a piece of paper. And an AI has the opportunity to really do that and do it effectively.
And then it can be
The
like,
list
hey, AI
grows.
who wrote your resume, this is AI who's going to review it and give you the response. Gold.
Yes. No one said the feedback loop had to be by a person. It's just a beautiful circle of robots talking to robots, and just a lot of them are trained very well by humans.
Exactly. Yeah. That'll be the first thing that you say when you get in the room. I'm so glad your robot liked my robot. Let's have a conversation about what it's like to be a human here. So, yeah, awesome.
Yes. Yeah, that's really good. So, Luke, I don't want to take up more of your Friday, even though I wish that I could take up the entire day because I want to just keep talking to you. But I do end every episode by asking the folks that gift me with their time, what era do you find yourself in, or what era are you moving into, Luke? So, hey, what's your era?
Ooh, I mean, like 1989 Taylor Swift. No, let me think. If I think about my era, is my collaboration era. So this year I set myself a goal to try to make most of my content collaborative and work with others. And I had this epiphany kind of last year, and I've got a lot of accolades, which I'm very grateful for. So anyone who's given me one of those, just know that I'm super grateful. But as this conversation has gone, like I've also been questioning the value of recognition and what does that mean, and self-promotion, it kind of is no recommendation, right? So it's, when I get these accolades, it's almost uncomfortable for me to be like, wow, look at this, another accolade that I just got. Because particularly in Australia, right? Australia has this thing called tall poppy syndrome. I don't know if you've heard of that before.
No.
And yeah, Aussies have this really bad I think it's a really bad trait that we don't like anyone on a pedestal. We chop them down, bring everyone back down, very egalitarian in that way. And so don't stick your neck out too far because, and that's hard when you want to be a thought leader, right? When you want to be a thought leader and you want to, and which is what I aspire to be. I aspire to be a thought leader and provide my thoughts on these topics that I'm passionate about, so that I learn and others learn at the same time, and that we can create great conversation. But I think last year when I sort of got to that point of like, there's no point in having a conversation just with yourself, and I want to collaborate with other people and create great content with other people and share our amazing community and build this community, which is where the 2020-ish series came from, right? It was like, how do I connect with as many people as possible and share their stories and share how awesome they are? And I think that's a way better way of recognizing each other and putting up people in lights. And I think it was, when Vicky gave your shout out, that's when we connected. And to me, I was like, man, if that's not the greatest success of 2020-ish, is that you and I got to connect and we're now here having this podcast, like that to me defined success. It's not some accolade. It's the fact that my network's grown. I'm able to connect with a kindred spirit and build this network and challenge each other, right? Like there was a few of those posts where like Jeff Toyster, he, love him to death. I just think he's amazing. I've looked up to him for so long and was so grateful that he was even part of it. But he would challenge me on the things that I said, and it made me think and stop and go, actually, what do I actually think about this? And do I really, is this a one-line that I'm putting on LinkedIn, or is this actually what I think? And that's the power of collaboration, right? Is that we get better with this stuff, and the saying, you ever heard the saying, iron sharpens iron?
Mm-hmm.
I actually think that I've been thinking about that saying a lot, and I might have said this somewhere else, but I actually think that if we think about what you sharpen a knife with, you sharpen it with a stone, right? And it's we sharpen things, and the reason we do that is because it creates more friction, and the more friction we have, the sharper we get. And so it's the opposite to customer experience, right? Customer experience is all about removing friction, finding friction, removing it. Whereas growth within ourselves is about finding something that causes friction that makes us sharper. And so, the only way you can do that is through collaboration. So my Taylor Swift album cover will be the collaboration era.
I love this era, and I have loved 2020-ish, and I am so happy that Vicky shouted me out. That was, I mean, the message I sent you when I first introduced myself to you, Luke, was I have to send this to my mom so that she can see that I am on this. This is a really big deal. This is a crazy moment, and you made people feel heard and seen and appreciated and acknowledged. You gave them a space to shine and to be proud of themselves. And I think that is a really, really powerful gift that you have given this community, because we all struggle with celebrating ourselves. And sometimes we need the help of others to do it. And you gave that. And so I'm very thankful for you.
Well, you've made me emotional, because that was Michael and I's goal, was to put other people in lights and give them a platform. And so I'm thrilled by that. I'm thrilled that you wanted your mum to see that. That's, that's the icing on the cake for me, right? Really awesome. Really awesome. And I'm looking forward to having you on the series next. Michael and I are looking forward to having you on the series as a feature next year, as a full-time guest next season.
I'm so excited. I am so excited. I can't wait to dive into that with you. And I'll be picking Vicky's brain and Rob's brain about what it was like to be a feature on there, and really, really have fun, because you guys are fun and you make it fun, and it's great.
That's it. That's what it's about. It's about creating. You said something before, which I thought was awesome. It's about creating space. And I think that is the future of work. And if we finish on anything, I think we finish on this. That is, the leaders of the future are going to be space makers. They're going to create space, whether it's online, virtually, in there. They make space for their people to grow, to flourish, to have conversations, and to share with each other. The leader of the future is a space maker.
Luke, way to bring a mic drop right there. Oh, well, thank you so much for this. And I can't wait to keep talking to you. And I really appreciate you. So thanks, Luke.
Back at you, Sarah. And I'll sign off as I always do with everyone. Hooroo, which is it's an Aussie slang term, and everyone always asks me what it means. And it's derived from the word hooray. So we celebrate the conversation that we've just had. So
I like that. Hooroo. My goodness, what a perfect way to end that episode. Thank you so much, Luke Jamieson, for gifting me with your time. And thank you so much, listeners, for joining us today for Epical Growth. If you loved what you heard, don't forget to hit subscribe, share this episode with someone that needs to hear Luke's insights, and leave us a review. We're nearing the end of the season, so stay tuned for some final amazing conversations coming up. And if you're ready to take what you've learned today and align it with your own leadership style and career goals, head to epicaloperations.com to explore my RVA framework. It's designed to help you identify your core values, define your ideal role, and create a path to lasting impact. Remember, creating space for growth, purpose, and leadership is what drives real change. I'm Sarah Caminiti. Have a great day.